All right, and we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. So, topic I'm going to cover here for you before we hop into this and take your questions is going to be the ability for us to add volume is about recovery in terms of our training. You know, people are always like, how much volume do you recommend? And the question becomes, number one, how much time do you have to allocate? Number one. Number two, what can you recover from? Because people are not understanding it. When I talk about recovery being the key to this, I'm not saying you need to keep your volume at a certain level, okay? Because more volume in theory should always equal more gains. But for one person with what they are doing in terms of their recovery with their lifestyle, their conditioning, what exercises they're picking, they literally might only be able to handle 6 to 8 sets for a muscle. Okay? Another person can handle 25. See where we're going with this? So when we put it in this context, this is what people are misunderstanding. They're asking, how much volume can we recover from? That's not the right question. The question is, how much recovery do you have available to recover from the amount of volume that you would like to do? Okay, these are two very different things. Understand what I'm saying. Okay, a person who eats more protein can handle more volume than the same person on less protein. A person who sleeps 9 hours a night, the same person can handle more volume than if they sleep 7 or 8 hours a night. Person who has a higher level of general physical preparedness can handle more volume and more volume density per workout than someone who doesn't. Right? Someone who has good stress management and fatigue management might be able to handle 5 or 6 more sets or 10 more sets for the same muscle per week and recover from it. So when we bring this up, people are asking the wrong questions. They're like, well, how much volume can we recover from? You've got to look at those other factors. And this is what we have to do as a coach oftentimes. We have to look at that and say, I don't know, how much volume can you recover from? And it's like, well, you got to find what works for you. No, you have to find what works for your current lifestyle. Not even about just you. You're sure your genetics matter. So the other thing I would say with some of it is, instead of saying, hey, I need to find out what works for me. No, why don't you figure out what lifestyle works for the amount of training volume that you would like to allocate the time and effort towards? That's the real end. People get it reversed. They're not understanding. So like, well, how come you said over here these people can only handle this much? And this other, it's like, because different situations. All right. Let's get to some questions here because we're getting a few. This context info and volume recovery is gold. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. That's why they're like, well, why are you saying these people over here can make good gains on this, but then someone else does 20 sets? Because their situations are different. The amount of volume we can handle is not. The human race collectively under all conditions can handle 11.3 sets. That's not how it works. Literally the same person, it could be 18 sets or it could be 6 sets in the same human being with the same genes, depending upon the context. Thomas says, how much do genetics matter for abs? They matter 100% for the shape of your abs. Do they impact how much you see your abs? Well, only in the context of maybe things like metabolic capacity and, some fat storage. But if the same body fat, it won't matter. Like if you diet down lean enough, that doesn't become a factor. Yes, genetics can affect how quickly or easily you lose body fat because it affects all sorts of metabolic things, appetite, all that, right? But genetics don't really determine your ability to get really lean or not, does it? It really doesn't determine the ability. It might determine the rate or the difficulty to some extent. Now, do genetics determine the shape of your abs? Correct. You can't really change the shape of your abs. That is genetic. But is it really genetic? Or is it the body structure you have and your genes played a role in that in utero? People throw that word genetics around a lot more than they should. People don't actually seem to understand what genes are. Okay? They don't understand epigenetics. They don't understand these factors. And that's okay. It's because the average person doesn't have much science background or they haven't read into it much. But the average person doesn't seem to understand what genes even are. So they use that term genetics loosely. They're under the assumption that genetics are still always impacting certain things later. Well, no, they might have been a factor with something in utero. Say the structure of your abs. There are a lot of different factors involved. Genes and stuff would have been a big factor. But, all genes do is transcribe proteins. Okay. Let me be clear. Genes do one thing. They're a blueprint for protein strands. That is what genes are. Genes are a blueprint to create strands of protein. That is the only thing that they do. All those proteins that they create then cause those cascade of effects in the body. So it's not like the gene itself creates the shape of your abs. The genes release a bunch of proteins that create different structures later. All right. Warrior Cobra's curse with strange looking abs. Well, they weren't strange looking. He just didn't have the connective tissue across his abdominal wall didn't seat as deeply. Because technically we don't have abs. We have an abdominal muscle. It's one muscle. The reason it has those lines in it are tendons that run across it. Now they're part of the muscle. They're in it. They're not just on the surface area. So they're like like when you see tendons and things, like when you cut into a piece of meat, and sometimes you have that tendon running through that connective tissue. That's what creates those ridges, right? CB says, what's the highest amount of volume per week you've ever pushed on a consistent basis? For any given muscle, 35 sets for a while. I was doing 35 sets of rows a week at one time for a couple of months. Now that we're increasing our volumes and pump work within recoverable, how do we avoid reaching jump volume? Hard sets. So in other words, it will be jump volume when you're just pumping sets that are nowhere near failure, probably. That is debated. Like not all researchers even agree that jump volume is real. Definitely, though, if you're not recovering from that volume anymore, it's too much to recover from it. It's going to be jump volume. Are pin leg rows inferior for back growth because you don't get a stretch like you would with a regular barbell? We could debate that. Nick, we could debate that for the next 20 hours until we're all blue in the face and not reach a consensus. Is benching completely flat back still hitting mostly chest? Future, I need you to reword the question. How are you determining mostly chest? Like what exactly what is your outcome for it? What is your metric for making that statement and what are you looking for? Meaning is the chest contributing to the most total force production? The answer is yes. What's one thing you wish you knew when you started your weight loss that you know now? I have no idea. I can't think back that far. What are your thoughts on the 1, 2, 3, 4 plate club standing for blah, blah, blah? It's a decent novice standard. I would consider that you're not a complete beginner anymore. Is benching flat back still going to provide good chest gains? I'm not following your logic, Future. Wouldn't the argument be that flat back would hypothetically be better compared to what? So I'm sorry, I'm a little confused by your question. Since flat back benching, the pecs are used more than any other muscle, wouldn't it hold a reason? So by using other muscles less and using a big muscle more, why wouldn't it give good chest gains? I'm confused by the logic. I mean, I could see if you were asking about one of the secondary muscles, like, well, those people don't know even basic physiology yet, right? That just seems like a really weird. These people would fail a freshman anatomy class. It's not an overhead press. What? It just seems like a very bizarre biomechanical statement to make. You increase range of motion on the biggest muscle involved, but that makes it work less. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't even understand that. I look dumbfounded because I almost feel like I don't know how to answer that. I'm going to be very, very polite. People who said that, bless their little hearts. I'm going to say it like I'm from the South. Oh, bless their little hearts. This seems strange. Have you seen Charles White's video on Wes Watson? Charlie White. Okay, here's where I go. I'm not sure who Charlie White is, but I'm sure his first name is Charlie and his last name is White. And he probably makes videos. Okay. Is he a fitness guy? Is he a joke channel? Does he make me? What does he do? What sort of channel does he have? All right. What's the biggest factor that caused your recent weight loss to be so successful? Probably all the fasting, honestly. Protein overfeeding combined with the fasting has probably been the most useful. I don't answer these sort of questions. All right. How would you train elderly clients? Easier than others. I've had a couple elderly clients. You just start them easier. You pay more attention to form. You got to load them slower. Do you go to bed feeling hungry ever? No. No. Not with all the heavy protein and the fasting. Not these days. Who is the mentor? I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that, to be honest. Because I could go a million. I would say my grandfather, because he taught me the basics of business. All right. Do you still have them train the big lifts? Depends on the person, Future. Have I had an elderly client who doesn't? Yes. Have I had an elderly client who trains them? Yes. So I could say it depends on the person. Right? Some people are literally not capable of doing the basic barbell lifts with an empty body. So in that case, they're going to use some 5-pound dumbbells. I've had a client who, even I did online coaching, who we literally started with 5-pound dumbbells. He did body weight squats and used 5-pound dumbbells, and we built him back up. I've only had one like that, but I've done it. Didn't know the rules. Yeah, no, I just don't answer my personal life stuff like that. It's okay. Do you think 6-week mesocycles and deloads are better than just training hard and deloading as and when you need? Nope. I don't believe in mesocycles at all, to be honest. And I'm very, very intimately familiar with things like linear block periodization. Okay. I just don't believe it. I agree with my bro Alex Viata, who says most periodization is voodoo that coaches use for psychosomatic response in their athletes. But is it producing a successful placebo or psychosomatic response in your athlete? Well, okay, perfectly reasonable, but it's not having a physical benefit. But mesocycles and deloads, I can absolutely say. I mean, objectively speaking, based upon the data, at any point having to take a deload or taking a deload hurts your gains, right? We only take deloads when we've been forced to, in which case that's the only time they hurt your gains less because you don't have a choice. You've overreached too much. But a planned deload absolutely reduces gains. You absolutely tend to lose muscle during those deloads. So in that case, dumbbells and machines. Well, dumbbells and machines are two completely different tools. They're on the opposite spectrums from each other. Dumbbells, because you can just get them light up. It's kind of hard to get a 5 or a 10-pound barbell. See the problem there, Legend? But dumbbells are often the opposite of machines if we compare them to a barbell in terms of things like stabilization. They're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. So it's kind of like, here's barbells, dumbbells are on this end, machines are on that end. So I think you mean maybe machines, but they're not going to have access at home and stuff. Right. And that was more of the case of, no, literally, they're not strong enough to handle a 45-pound barbell. So we have to use 5-pound dumbbells because I don't have a 5-pound barbell and they don't either. Who took me? No one. Nobody took me under their wing during my fitness career. Are there coaches I learned from out there? Are there people I compared notes with? Are there people whose works I studied intimately? Yes. But you asking, did someone actually mentor me? No, nobody. I've done it on my own. Big Johnson says, evening, Jason. Right. What else we got, guys? Man, the questions just died off right there. Just an abrupt end. It's okay. I wasn't going to run this one long anyways. What general advice would you give yourself age 29? Trying to think. Oh, yeah. Divorce her sooner, bro. Don't wait till you're 31. All right. I'm surprised you don't have more of an audience. To be honest, you give the best advice. Because at 29, I was married to my first ex-wife. Not for much longer, but yeah. Do you feel a major difference in lifting in your 20s versus 30? Yeah, but keep in mind, I also was like in bed sick at like 31, 32 or whatever. So it kind of impacted that. I had to rebuild, learn to walk it. Learning to walk again definitely makes lifting feel totally different. So I'm gonna go with that. But I mean, in terms, or do you mean just in general? Yeah, I felt certain things were a little more challenging in my 30s. You're not as indestructible. No, Craig, I've discussed it in vast detail. I don't feel like rehashing my whole medical history. I've done whole long videos on it 10, 12 years ago at this point. And I'm not being facetious. It's just there's a point where it's like, I mean, we've covered the bilateral Meniere's disease, being sick in bed, the vomiting all the time, the vestibular attacks, getting depressed while I'm in bed sick, then getting fat because people are bringing me food. Like we've covered it. At this point, it's a lifetime ago, right? Keep in mind, I'm about to turn 48 this weekend. You start talking back to my early 30s. That's been a little while, right? It's been a while. A brief period of time has passed. I mean, I've been through a whole marriage and divorce. I've lived in 2 different countries. I mean, a lot's happened since then. Now I started a YouTube channel, right? That's about to be 13 years right there. So, because the original channel was in 2012, we're coming up on 2025. Been a while. But people seem to lose track of those things. Like even the whole fake Merc thing, that was a decade ago. Would you say your life's gotten better with age? I don't know how to answer that. I really don't know how to answer that. I feel like I'm in a good place this week. Went through some stuff a couple weeks ago, that's all. That's over. We take it all in stride. All right. I've been less productive today than when I had planned to be, though. I mean, I got stuff done. I trained. I've got some work done, some client stuff. I locked a new client. I was going to get more stuff done, but I didn't. I remember the full body training you did in that yoga outside during the vegan days. How do you know it was during the vegan days? I was only a vegan for 6 months. That was such a short period of time. I gave it a try. Can someone lift going into their 80s? New clients come and go all the time, Craig, but I appreciate it. Hoping to pick up at least 5 for the new year. Can someone lift going into their 80s? I mean, future, isn't it obvious? There are people who lifted in their 80s. So, I mean, that's happened. There's a point where everyone can't do it anymore. So I'm not sure what we're looking for, because have you not clearly observed that there are people in their 80s who lift? Clearly, some people can. And common sense would dictate there would be a point for each individual, right? Right. Have you been enjoying the crypto market? I cashed out on my crypto a while back. Congrats on that. I mean, I've got a little bit, but it's not like significant amounts. Congrats on the new client. Let's see. A football coach sitting here, he said he used to lift with you back in the day. Where did he lift with me, Tommy? I mean, he may have. It's possible. Craig's maintaining your strength, doing good as you approach 60, or can you still make gains? That is going to be very complicated. Craig, the issue we run into, it has to do with the nervous system at a certain point. With age, there does start reaching a point, and it can be happening as early as the 60s, definitely in the 60s. We start reaching a point to where some of our faster twitch, like upper threshold muscle fibers, we lose the ability to turn them on at all. And it's not that, oh, you can just keep practicing. No, it's been noted that with age, your peripheral nervous system, the nerves involved, like die. So you do not have the connection to the muscle to actually fire it. And it starts happening with age, and it's not a set number. Does that make sense? It's not like we can say, it happens at exactly 61 and a half, right? But as you see, I've turned 48 in a couple of days. So. We don't talk about Jason Genova here. No, I would never have lifted with you. Come on. I'm going to be nice. Normally, I would just ban that. No, 48. I turned 48 in a couple of days, dude. Come on. Happy early birthday. Thank you, Tommy. Is taking naps after a lift good? I mean, sometimes after a workout, sure. It might be. It could be. All right. Check this out. This Craig. Okay. That's all I needed to know. Got any birthday plans? Keep some of my plans to myself. I mean, I've had some plans already this week. My birthday itself, I actually don't. I do have some plans the next day. You look great for 48, by the way. Thank you. Appreciate it. Can you make strength gains with low weight and high rep squats? I'm asking because my home gym only has. Yes, in theory. That's the best answer I can give you, King Bruce. Hypothetically, yes, but there's a lot of nuance to answer that. Is it possible? Yes. Did you use a sauna after a workout when you worked out at a public gym? Yes, I've used a sauna quite a few times. Quite a few times. All right. All right, cool, guys. I got some other stuff I need to get to before it gets any later, so I thought I'd come in here and do this. Let me check out what Tommy said, and I'm going to wind this down. Have a pain around my shoulder blade. Do you have any idea on how to fix it? It might be a knot. Have someone massage it. Get in, put a foam roller on it, put a lacrosse ball on it, see if you can work out that knot. So have someone put a massager on it and see if it helps. All right, see if it helps. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wind this down. All right, so I hope it's been informative. I love all of you guys and gals, and I'll talk to you next time.